Let me ask you a question that most people never slow down long enough to answer honestly. If tomorrow morning you woke up, reached for your phone, and realized you no longer had a job, which situation would actually make you safer? Living in a house you fully own, with no mortgage but almost no money left in the bank? Or still having a mortgage, still owing the bank every month, but enough cash to survive for the next 3 years without panic? Most people don't hesitate. They say, a paid-off house, because for decades we've been taught the same story. Debt is dangerous. Owning your home outright is freedom. And once the house is paid off, you're finally safe. It feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like winning. But here's the uncomfortable truth that almost no one wants to hear. For millions of people, that belief is not just outdated. It's dangerous. Because safety is not about what you own. Safety is about what you can access when life stops cooperating, when income disappears, when emergencies stack up, when the world doesn't care how responsible you were. A house can't buy groceries, it can't fix your car, it can't keep the lights on. And yet, we've been taught to pour our liquidity, our flexibility, and our options into something we can't easily touch. Tonight, we're going to challenge one of the most sacred ideas in personal finance. Not emotionally, not politically, but realistically. We're going to talk about why paying off your house early, especially in a low-interest world, can quietly turn financial security into financial fragility. And by the end of this video, you may realize that the thing you were chasing for peace of mind was never safety at all. It was just comfort. Imagine this. You're 45 years old. It's a quiet Tuesday evening. You're sitting at your kitchen table. The house is calm. There's a glass of wine next to you. In front of you sits your checkbook. You take a deep breath, and you write a check for $42,000. That number represents the last of your savings, your emergency fund, and a small inheritance your parents left you years ago. You hesitate for a second. Then you slide the check into an envelope. You mail it to the bank. And just like that, your mortgage is gone. No more monthly payments. No more interest. No more debt. You own your home, free and clear. That night, you sleep better than you have in years. Your mind finally quiets down. You tell yourself, I did it the right way. I made the responsible choice. I'm finally safe. For the first time in a long time, the future feels settled. But fast forward 6 months. The economy shifts. Your industry slows down. Then it collapses. Your position is eliminated. No warning. No severance worth mentioning. Your income drops to zero. You open your banking app. The balance loads. $300. You stare at the number longer than you want to admit. You still need groceries. Your car needs repairs. Property taxes are due. Insurance. Utilities. And suddenly a cold realization sets in. You're sitting inside a house worth $500,000, and you're broke. You look around the room, at the walls, the floor, the ceiling. And for the first time, you understand something no one ever warned you about. You can't eat drywall. You can't pay the mechanic with bricks. And no matter how valuable this house is on paper, it can't help you survive the next 30 days. This moment has a name. It's called the liquidity trap. And it's where the American dream quietly turns into fragility. Most people are taught to believe that risk means having debt, that owing money is dangerous, that the safest position is zero debt. But that definition is incomplete. Real risk is not owing money. Real risk is not having access to money when you need it most. Because when life goes wrong, banks don't suddenly become generous. They don't lend to people who are struggling. They lend to people who don't need loans. So you walk into a bank and ask for a home equity line of credit. You explain your situation. You show them your house. You point to the equity. They look at your file. No income. Uncertain economy. Higher default risk. And they say no. Not because you don't have value, but because you don't have leverage anymore. You're rich on paper and poor in reality. You own something expensive, but you can't convert it into survival. That's the trap. A paid-off house feels solid, but it quietly removes your ability to respond to chaos. And when flexibility disappears, stress replaces it. Not because you were reckless, but because you optimized for the wrong definition of safety. You protected ownership and sacrificed access. And access is what keeps you alive when plans fall apart. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. Home equity is often dead money. Yes, your house may go up in value. Yes, it feels reassuring. But equity doesn't produce cash flow. It can't be spent easily. And it's difficult to access under pressure. It just sits there. Now imagine two people. Person one owns their house outright. No mortgage. But they have $5,000 in the bank. Person two still has a mortgage at 4%, but they have $500,000 in liquid investments. Who is safer? Who can survive longer if income stops? Who has time to make good decisions instead of desperate ones? Cash isn't just money. Cash is time. Cash is options. Cash is oxygen. And when you aggressively pay down your mortgage, you trade oxygen for pride. You turn flexible capital into something static. You don't eliminate risk. You concentrate it. And concentrated risk is what breaks people when life refuses to cooperate. Now let's talk about the math. If your mortgage rate is 3 or 4%, paying it off early gives you a 3 or 4% return. That's the entire benefit. Ask yourself something honestly. Would you willingly lock your money into an account earning 3% with a massive penalty if you needed it back? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what extra mortgage payments are. Meanwhile, money market funds often pay more. The stock market has historically paid more. So why do people rush to eliminate low-interest debt? Because debt feels uncomfortable. It creates anxiety. It creates a sense of obligation. And paying it off feels like relief. That emotional relief has a price. I call it the fear tax. It's the difference between what your money could earn and what you accept instead just to feel calm. And over decades, that fear tax compounds into something massive. Not because you made a mistake, but because you chose comfort over optimization. You paid for peace of mind with future freedom. And most people never realize what they gave up, because the loss doesn't show up on a statement. It shows up years later when options quietly disappear. There's another force most people misunderstand: inflation. Inflation punishes savers, but it rewards borrowers. When you take out a 30-year fixed mortgage, your payment never changes. But the value of money does. Every year your dollars buy a little less, which means the real cost of your mortgage shrinks over time. What feels expensive today becomes manageable. What feels heavy now becomes light later. The bank lends you strong dollars today, and you pay them back with weaker dollars tomorrow. That's not a flaw in the system. That's how the system works. When you pay off your mortgage early, you destroy that advantage. You rush to give the bank your strongest dollars instead of letting time and inflation do the work for you. You don't beat the bank. You help them. And you give up one of the few forms of debt that actually becomes easier the longer you hold it. Now let's talk about opportunity cost. Say you pay an extra $1,000 every month to kill your mortgage early. It feels responsible. It feels disciplined. But imagine investing that same $1,000 instead. Over 15 years, it grows into hundreds of thousands. Over 30 years, it quietly becomes millions. Meanwhile, the house appreciates either way. One person ends with a paid-off house. The other ends with a paid-off house and a large investment portfolio. The difference isn't intelligence, it's timing and allocation. That million-dollar gap is the price of emotional comfort, and because it's invisible, most people never feel the pain. They just feel safe. Until one day they realize they traded flexibility for a feeling, and feelings don't pay bills. Here's the final truth. A paid-off house is a trophy. Liquidity is an army. One looks impressive. The other keeps you alive when life stops playing fair. True freedom isn't zero debt. True freedom is knowing that if everything goes wrong tomorrow, you still have options. Because the most dangerous number in finance isn't debt. It's zero options.